Emilio Estevez, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Awesome. Well, I'm Jill Riley from the Currents Morning Show, Minnesota Public Radio. And so I think being that I'm in Minnesota, we've got a special connection with the Mighty Ducks
Indeed, we
franchise.
do.
So
Indeed, I love the Twin Cities. I've shot in all three Mighty Ducks there, of course, but I was there in 1984 shooting a very little scene movie called That Was Then, This Is Now, which was based on an S.E. Hinton novel. The only one that wasn't shot in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But the producers of that film hailed from the Twin Cities and insisted that we shoot it there. So I've done four movies in the Twin Cities, and I'm so fond of the area and the people. And like I was reminded the other day about sitting on the steps of the cathedral, at dawn after a full night of shooting and just raising a beverage, if you will, and toasting the sunrise. And there's just something so incredibly magical about being there, and I love it there.
it's great. I used to live right behind the cathedral. I just loved living in that neighborhood. Okay, well, here we are. I heard rumblings, gosh, a while back that there was going to be something in the works in the Mighty Ducks franchise. And so I kind of wondered to myself, well, I wonder if it's going to take place in Minnesota. I wonder if it's going to shoot here. It's going to be a
Right.
movie. What is it going to be? And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And then it's
That's
kind of
right.
like, okay, wonder whatever happened to that. So now this series, you're back in the role as Gordon Bombay. And, it's present day Minnesota. And so I wonder, it was what, 1992 when the first Mighty Ducks movie came out.
That's
Um,
right.
when were you approached about playing this character again? And what was your reaction?
So a couple of years ago, the original creator of the original franchise, Steve Brill, approached me and said, "This is happening. We're developing it. Are you interested?" And I wasn't in a headspace to embrace it. I'd really been in the independent film world for the last 25 years. I kind of exited mainstream fare the same year that I shot Mighty Ducks 3. I also did a cameo in Mission Impossible. And then I went off into the wilderness and I kind of packed my bags and I said, if I'm going to be an independent filmmaker and a storyteller, this is the time to do that. And I took off and I made, what I believed were very socially relevant movies. The first one was The War at Home, where I dealt with PTSD. The next one was Rated X, where it dealt with fratricide, Bobby Kennedy's assassination of Bobby, spiritual, A Journey with the Way, and then the intersectionality of homelessness and social infrastructure with the public. And so I really was in that sort of in that headspace and been there for the last 25 years. And yet, independent filmmaking is a very lonely place, and it's a very difficult place to dwell when you're always having to go out and sort of beg people for money to make your films. And so as Steve and I continue to have these conversations, it was like, look, we believe you would be a wonderful asset to this. I think people would love to see you come back. And, as I spend time in what Hollywood calls the flyover states, I spend time going in the Midwest, driving and talking to people. And that's where I think where you get your best intel, where you get your environmental scanning, as it were.
Mhm.
And people will tell you what they want. And the feedback oftentimes is, we'd like to see you play Gordon Bombay again. We'd like to see you play Billy the Kid again. We'd love to see you back on screen in anything for that matter, but we'd love for you to play these two characters. We'd love to see that. And so you hear that enough times. And what's the old saying is, if three people tell you you're drunk, it's time to sit down. I took that to heart. And I was actually in a bar in Minnesota, or I'm sorry, in Cincinnati a few years ago. And I was having a conversation with Steve, and then we hung up and I started to poll the folks inside. And it was then that I began the conversations in earnest.
Yeah, it's you've done movies that have cult followings, but there's something about, I think, the Mighty Ducks generation that of all the parts you've played, I think people anywhere at that, the older end of the millennials, the younger end of Gen X, they're, that's it. Emilio Estevez to a certain generation is Gordon Bombay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And listen, if you're a young actor, if you're an actor, period, and you have an opportunity to have a few movies or one movie on your resume that transcends generations and stands the test of time, you're lucky. I fortunately I've had, whether it's Breakfast Club or Repo Man or The Outsiders or The Mighty Ducks, I've been involved with films that just continue to have this shelf life that was not part of a plan. Because when you're an actor, it's like somebody says yes after hundreds and hundreds of rejections. You're like, yes, I'm in, I'll do it. You never know what's going to happen with any one particular title. I've been blessed that I've been able to play characters and be in films, act in movies that have stood that test of time and have connected to a lot of generations.
Mm-hmm. I'm talking with Emilio Estevez, back in the role of Gordon Bombay. The new series, so it's not a film, it's a series, Mighty Ducks Game Changers, premiering on Disney Plus March 26th, the Friday, March 26th. And it would seem the Mighty Ducks have changed. The team has changed. I mean, you can't remain the underdog forever if you're a winner, right? Things are going to change.
Right.
And
That's
it would
right.
seem that your character has changed.
He has. He has. He's soft. He's sad, and he's sleeping on the couch of his office, which is where he lives. And when we see him, he's kind of given up on life. He's disengaged. He's subsisting on birthday cake and leftover pizza from kids' birthday parties at the ice rink. He's kind of a sad sack, and he's not interested in engaging on any level. And it's through Lauren Graham's character Alex and the kids needing a place to practice that help pull him out of his shell. The advantage you have with a television show, and especially limited, is you've got 10 episodes, you got 5 hours of content in which to unroll and unspool the story, as well as allow for a lot of time for these characters to develop. So obviously we know that Gordon Bombay is not going to be the same guy by episode 10 as he's introduced in episode 1. But the beauty of this, and this is again my first foray into TV, of having this sort of time to dig into a character and allow for it to develop and unfold.
And so this series shot in Canada. Now, did that have to do?
Don't get me started.
Okay.
Don't get me started.
Okay.
But listen, you know what? I think that you want to talk about patriotism. Patriotism is keeping your U.S. dollars in the United States and employing American workers and American film technicians. And I, whenever possible, I have made that my mission. Yes, shooting this in Canada was not my choice. I would have obviously would have preferred to have been in the Twin Cities and shooting. But obviously with the issue of the pandemic, it was hard enough to shoot a film during that time where everybody's masking up and there's no socializing and there's no community. And that was really what we felt as actors, as producers. There was no opportunity to hang out, to chat, to work through things that you're in your trailer and you're brought out and the masks come off and you say your lines and you're back in your trailer. And that's the reason I'm so fond of being a part of this industry, is that it's about the relationships that you create, and it's about the people that you get to spend time with on set. And there was none of that. And it was a real disappointment that, that relationships had to be through the euphoria, had to be through, masks and Zoom calls.
Yeah, I imagine that was a challenge. We're pretty understanding, though, in Minnesota, because we're so close to Canada that, it's not the first time that a film, that's located in Minnesota shot in Canada. But, it's all the circumstances. And I bet it was hard because, even when you're filming a series about, team mentality, to not be able to have that team mentality behind the scenes, it sounds like it was a challenge. Well, Emilio, I know that I have to let you go. I know you're a busy man. And let me tell you, this has been This has been a great time just being able to talk to you for a couple
Thanks,
minutes.
Jill. I hope to do it in person. I hope I'm in the Twin Cities sometime soon.
Seriously, stop by. You can come to Minnesota Public Radio anytime. I know you've been here. I've got a
I
great
have.
conversation piece in our studio, which is a picture
Oh,
that
that's
we
right.
took about 10 years ago.
Yes.
You were here
Yes.
promoting the way, and
That's right.
I have a way of finding out information. I've been at NPR for a long, long time, and I totally like got you with the camera. So
That
thank
was
you for
great.
that.
No, I loved it. I love that was part of our bus tour where
Yeah.
we did a 50-day, almost 30 city bus tour to promote the way. And I do remember coming through and spending time in the Twin Cities for that.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, you take care and best of luck. Again,
Thank you.
Emilio Estevez back in the role as Gordon Bombay. Mighty Ducks Game Changers premieres on Disney Plus on Friday, March 26th. Take care.
Thanks, y'all. I appreciate it. We'll
All
see you
right.
in studio soon.
Yep. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.